Okay, so I just want to talk through one of the processes sections just to kind of give you a bit of an overview of some of the language that you should be using because I think it's really important. We give you the scaffolds, we give you the ideas, but you have to actually see what are the parts of the sentence that we're asking you to do. So, um, what you can see here with this example is that it is based on the idea of review of academic literature. So it's not based on the idea of online resources. It's not based on a source. It's based on the process. And what's really important here with process centric language is that the process is the review. So there's an action. Okay, a process is an action. Now, what you'll see that this student does really nicely is starts off with an evaluation of how important the research process was. So this was critical. It wasn't just critical, it was the most critical. So give a judgment. We've given you a list of them at the back of the booklet. Give a qualifier, which then explains the judgment. So most, limited, second, whatever it is, rank them, right? We know that you are good at making judgments. Use them for good, not evil. What we also see that this student does really well is states the process very clearly, but more importantly, explains straight up why was this process important? What did they get from reading this type of literature? Well, they got the essential basis of their topic and they got the key terminology. They also talk about the fact that doing this provided the subtopics, which became the basis of interactions. So, by doing this background research, they could actually prepare for their interviews. Now, I'm sure that you guys did lots of research to prepare for your interviews. That is good. Okay. Then they explain the effect, and this is the bit that's really important. They don't just say, I prepared for it. They say, why was that so important? Because after they did this, they had better credibility as a researcher, they had more nuanced conversation. Nuance just means detailed. They were able to, tailor their interactions to actually turn it into something specific. And then there was, including the pertinent points. So they were able to reveal key ideas that they had. Right now, this person uses really fancy language. It's not a big deal whether you're right. I got heaps of information from the academic review, and that made it better when I did my interviews because I actually knew what the hell I was talking about. That would be fine as well. You don't have to use all this flowery language, but you do have to be able to justify. So it's a multi-step process here. Okay, it's not just I did a literature review, it was good. It's I did a literature review. This was the preparation for the next step. Because I was prepared, I had a better interview. Because I had a better interview, I answered my question better. It's got to be linked. Okay. The other thing is that they go into additional reasons. So that's all. You could almost think of it as like part one, right? The first thing that they actually talk about, part one. Then we can see part two. Furthermore, academic articles were particularly useful for ascertaining educated insight. Okay, so now we're going back to setting up your judgment. They were particularly useful. We've got our qualifier. Why were they useful? Well, they got an insight into this report thing that they needed for their research. Okay. They evaluate why was this report so useful? Well, it was produced by people who were experts and it was critical to their definition. And these terms were a fundamental basis of the research and it greatly enhanced the point in the outcome. And then they talk about a whole nother process. They talk about background research into these experts. So they don't just say, I did a literature review and that was the end. They talk about how processes came together to make their research better. So you could almost think of it as like here is a whole nother point. And then at the end is this little mini bit about background research. One paragraph, so detailed. This piece did score a perfect mark. So this is the best you could possibly do. We don't expect it to all look like this, but look at this structure and try and use it as an example for building on. Good luck.